In the beginning there was only silence and the breath of eternity. Then a voice, one word that shattered the void, "Let there be light." From that light came oceans, mountains, and the rhythm of life itself. But paradise would not last. Pride took root in the heart of man. Cain raised his hand against his brother. The world drowned beneath its own corruption. Yet even in judgment, grace remained, a promise sealed by a rainbow.
Before the first sunrise, before the first heartbeat, there was only silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence that waits, in eternity, holding its breath for a single word. And then, from the depths of the unseen, God spoke, "Let there be light." The darkness trembled, light burst forth, radiant and wild, stretching across an empty void. It was the first dawn, the birth of time itself. In that instant, chaos obeyed order, and nothing became something. That light still moves. The same word that shattered the void still burns in every sunrise, in every living soul that draws breath. You, me, every heartbeat that has ever lived, all began in that first word. Day followed day, each one spoken into being by divine command. On the second day, God stretched out the heavens like a canopy, separating waters above from waters below. On the third, he gathered the seas, revealing dry land. Mountains rose, rivers ran, flowers burst open in color. Each blade of grass knew its place. Each wave stopped where he told it to stop. And God saw that it was good. The fourth day filled the heavens with brilliance. The sun blazed by day, the moon ruled by night, and stars, countless and ancient, burned as signposts of his glory. The fifth day sang with life. Wings fluttered through the air, fins cut through waters. Creation itself became an orchestra, and the universe was the stage. On the sixth day, the earth shook with the movement of beasts, elephants, lions, deer, oxen, each after its kind. But creation was not yet complete. All was ready, yet something was missing, a being who could reflect the Creator's image. Then in the cool of the morning, God stooped to the ground. From the dust he formed a man, not by command, but by touch. Every cell, every line of his face shaped by divine hands. And when the work was done, God leaned close and breathed. The breath of God entered the dust, and Adam opened his eyes. The first man inhaled heaven's air and became a living soul. Light reflected in his eyes, the image of his Maker. God planted a garden eastward in Eden. Imagine it, rivers of crystal water, trees heavy with fruit of every kind, colors unknown to our world. The scent of life itself filled the air. The lion lay beside the lamb. The ground bore food without toil. And in the center of that paradise stood two trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God placed Adam there, not as a slave, but as a steward. He gave him authority over all living things, yet also a single boundary. Of every tree in the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day you eat of it, you shall surely die." It was not a test of cruelty, but a test of love. Love must choose, or it is not love at all. For a time Adam walked alone. He named the animals, lion, dove, elephant, yet among them found no companion. And God said, "It is not good that man should be alone." So God caused Adam to sleep. From his side he took a rib and formed a woman. When Adam awoke, he saw her and whispered in awe, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." Eve's eyes met his, and the world felt complete. Two hearts in perfect harmony, walking with God Himself in the cool of the day. No pain, no death, only peace and purpose. But somewhere beyond the beauty of Eden, rebellion stirred. An ancient being, the serpent, once radiant among the heavenly host, now twisted by pride. He could not destroy the Creator, but he could poison what the Creator loved. One day, Eve wandered near the forbidden tree. The serpent's voice slithered through the leaves. "Has God really said you shall not eat of every tree?" Eve answered, "We may eat of all, except this one, for we shall die." The serpent smiled. "You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." The words sounded true, half light, half shadow. Eve looked again at the fruit. It was beautiful, fragrant, shining like desire itself. She reached out, took it, and ate. Then she gave to Adam, who was with her, and he ate also. At once their eyes were opened, not to godlike power, but to unbearable shame. The innocence of creation shattered. They saw their nakedness and sewed fig leaves together. The sound of the Lord walking in the garden now filled them with dread. "Adam, where are you?" It was not the voice of an angry judge, but of a father calling his lost children. Adam answered, trembling, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid." God asked, "Who told you that you are naked? Have you eaten of the tree?" And man did what man would always do. He blamed. "The woman you gave me, she gave me the fruit." The woman blamed the serpent. The serpent stood silent. His victory was complete. Then judgment came. The serpent was cursed to crawl, the woman to bear pain, the man to toil against a cursed ground. And yet here even mercy appeared like a sunrise after a storm. God looked at the serpent and declared the first prophecy. "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall crush your head, and you shall bruise his heel." The promise of a deliverer, a savior who would one day undo the serpent's deceit. Before sending them out, God clothed Adam and Eve in garments of skin. Blood was shed to cover their shame, the first sacrifice, the first glimpse of redemption. Then with sorrow, God drove them out of Eden and placed cherubim and a flaming sword to guard the tree of life. The sound of paradise faded behind them. The air was colder, the soil harder, the world different. And yet hope still lingered in their hearts. They had lost the garden, but not the God who had made it. Somewhere beyond the flaming sword, the story of salvation had begun. From that day, humanity would walk a road of longing, reaching for the light they once knew. The story of Genesis is not only about beginnings, it is about the heart of God that never stops reaching for His creation. Soon, a child would be born, a son named Cain, then another named Abel. And in their hands the first battle between pride and faith would begin. But that is where our story truly starts.
Beyond the gates of Eden, Adam and Eve stood in silence. The ground beneath their feet was rough, no longer soft with paradise. Each sunrise was a reminder not of glory, but of what was lost. And yet, even in exile, God's breath still lingered in them. They still lived, they still loved, and soon Eve conceived. Her cry echoed across the new world as she gave birth to a son. She looked at the tiny face in her arms and whispered, "I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord." Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. They named him Cain. In his small hands rested the hope of every human, the dream that maybe he would be the promised seed, the one who would crush the serpent's head. But another son came, Abel, gentler, quiet, thoughtful. The two boys grew under a sky unspoiled by pollution, a sky that still shimmered with the memory of Eden. They learned to till the ground and tend flocks, to live and to labor under the sweat of their brows. Cain became a farmer, the tiller of soil. Abel tended sheep upon the hills. Time passed, and then came the day that would test not just their hearts, but the very nature of humanity's relationship with God. Soft drum-like sound. Both brothers brought an offering before the Lord. Cain came first, carrying the fruit of his harvest, grain, roots, fruits, things pulled from the ground cursed by sin. Abel came next with a firstborn lamb from his flock, spotless, breathing, alive, and he offered its life as a sacrifice. Smoke rose from both altars, spiraling toward heaven, but only one found favor. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. Genesis chapter 4, verses 4 to 5. Cain's heart darkened. He watched his brother's smoke ascend while his own drifted low and cold. Jealousy, that old poison, took root. God saw the storm brewing in his soul. He spoke gently, "Why are you angry, and why is your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at your door, and its desire is for you, but you must rule over it." Genesis chapter 4, verses 6 to 7. But Cain did not answer. He turned away from God, away from mercy, and toward the field. Scene darkens. There, under the open sky, he called his brother. The grass swayed, the wind whispered, and Abel came, smiling, trusting. Cain's hand trembled, not from weakness, but rage, and then the world fell silent again. And Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. Genesis chapter 4, verse 8. The earth drank the blood of the innocent for the first time. It cried out louder than thunder, louder than pain. And then came the voice. The same voice that had walked in Eden now asked, "Cain, where is Abel, your brother?" Cain's reply still echoes through history. "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" But heaven cannot be mocked. "What have you done?" said the Lord. "The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Genesis chapter 4, verse 10. God marked him, not for death, but for remembrance. "A fugitive and a wanderer you shall be." And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, east of Eden, carrying not just guilt, but the shadow of what sin had become. He built cities, raised children, crafted tools and music and weapons, but never peace. Tone shifts. Generations passed. Cain's line multiplied, building culture but forgetting the Creator. Metals were forged, songs were sung, men took multiple wives, and violence filled the earth. It was progress without purpose, brilliance without holiness. Then a different seed began to rise, Seth, the son born to Adam and Eve after Abel's death. "For God," said Eve, "has appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew." Genesis chapter 4, verse 25. Through Seth, men began to call upon the name of the Lord. Two lineages now walked the earth, one building cities of men, the other building altars to God. But even as faith flickered among Seth's descendants, darkness continued to spread. Men grew proud, and women were sought not for their hearts, but for their beauty. Angels, the end sons of God, looked upon the daughters of men and took them as wives, creating a generation of mighty men, men of renown, the Nephilim. And with their rise came an age of corruption the world had never seen. Slow, mournful voice. The Lord looked upon the earth, and what he saw pierced his heart. The wickedness of man was great in the earth, and every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. It is written, "And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart." Pause and feel that. The God who created light, who breathed life into dust, now grieving over his creation. He had given them everything, yet they filled his world with violence, pride, and rebellion. Then the verdict came, not in anger alone, but in sorrow. "I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth." Genesis chapter 6, verse 7. But even in judgment, mercy remained. For among billions of corrupt hearts, one man still walked differently. Voice lifts. His name was Noah, a man of faith, quiet strength, and unshakable obedience. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Genesis chapter 6, verse 8. He walked with God as his great-grandfather Enoch once did, the man who walked with God and was not, for God took him. The world around him mocked holiness. The cities echoed with sin, but Noah's heart remained anchored in reverence. And one night, amid the noise of a dying world, God spoke to him. "The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood." Genesis chapter 6,
verses 13 to 14. An ark, massive, beyond comprehension, a vessel of salvation in a time when no one believed salvation was needed. Imagine Noah's neighbors, a man in the desert building a ship longer than a football field, telling people rain would fall from the sky when rain had never yet fallen. They laughed, they mocked, but Noah kept building. For 120 years, he preached righteousness through hammer and nail. Each strike of wood echoed a warning to a deaf generation.
His sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, helped him construct the vessel. Their wives joined in, and though the world called him mad, heaven called him faithful. At last, the ark stood ready, massive, silent, waiting. Then came the command, "Of every clean animal you shall take by sevens, and of every unclean by twos." The skies darkened, the wind shifted, creation itself seemed to hold its breath, and then, as if summoned by an unseen hand, animals began to move. Lions, lambs, eagles, serpents, elephants, all walking two by two toward the wooden doorway. Men watched in awe, yet still refused to believe. When the last creature entered, God spoke once more. "Come into the ark, you and all your household, for I have seen that you are righteous before me." Then the Lord shut him in. The door closed. The first drop fell. It began as a drizzle, then a downpour. Then the heavens burst open. All the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Mountains vanished beneath waves. Cities crumbled. Voices cried out, but mercy had already entered the ark. For 40 days and nights, waters swallowed the world. The ark floated, not on chaos, but on covenant. Inside, Noah waited. He could hear only the beating rain and the whispers of his own heart. Was it over? Would the world ever see light again? Then one morning, after months of silence, the rain ceased. The waters began to fall. A dove was sent, and it returned with an olive leaf, a sign that life had begun again. When the earth finally dried, Noah stepped out onto new ground. He built an altar, the first since Abel's, and offered burnt offerings to the Lord. And God smelled the sweet savor and said, "I will never again curse the ground for man's sake. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease." Then came the covenant, the rainbow shining across the clouds, a promise sealed in light. Never again would waters destroy the earth. From dust to brothers, from blood to flood, the story of Genesis reveals not just man's failure, but God's relentless mercy. Every judgment carried a promise. Every curse carried a seed of redemption. Yet even now, though the rainbow arched across the heavens, sin still lived in human hearts. And from Noah's sons, nations would rise, some to remember, most to... Don't stop here. Watch how one man's obedience will rebuild a fallen world and begin humanity's second chance. Subscribe to Timeless Bible Stories for Part 2.